this dog. Hi, this is Sally Morgan, physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington TTouch practitioner for animals and people. And this is Tristan. He's a Corgi. Tristan, I have to ask you to sit, please. And we are here for another episode of Conversations with a Corgi. And last week, before I went away and had no internet and horrendous rain and torrential wind on the Cape, we had started to talk about emotion code work with an introduction to kinesiology. However, I need to interrupt that right now because I have had 2 requests from people to show 2 particular things that they can do with their dogs. One person has a dog who is having seizures and they wanted to know what they could do with that in terms of self-care or care they can provide to the dog. And the second person has a dog with DM and wanted me to show some of the techniques you can use for that. And we will do that tomorrow. Today, however, we're going to look at some things that you can do to help your dog if your dog has seizures. Now, of course, the first thing you need to know if your dog is having seizures is how to tell when your dog is having seizures. There are many types of seizures, ranging from the type on the floor where your dog is shaking and convulsing and you have to make sure they don't swallow their tongue as with people, or bite their tongue, more the case with dogs, or bite you. So don't put your hand in their mouth, but just try to keep the dog calm and safe and be there with them when the seizure stops. A more typical type of seizure that I've seen more often in dogs is when they just sort of get a blank look on their face and they stare into space and they can't move and they can't listen to you and they are just kind of zoned out for seconds to a minute or so. And that is much more typical. But of course, the shaking seizures are the ones that are so frightening to people when they see their dog having this problem. My Corgi's melting. He's still tired. It was a long weekend. So some of the things I'm going to show you today to do for your dog having seizures, you can do this throughout the day, not just when the dog is having seizures. The ear work that I will show you, which you can also review the ear work, the TTouch ear work on a way earlier episode of Conversations with a Corgi back around number 20, which by the way are all archived on YouTube under Conversations with a Corgi, and they're labeled there and you can see where the ear work one is and review that if you're working with a dog with seizures. And a lot of that is what I'm going to show you today with a specific bent towards showing you what to do. Now, when your dog is actually having the seizure, that's not necessarily a good time to try to work on them unless you're very experienced. It can be dangerous. I know some dogs that have had significant brain tumors and started having seizures when they were 7 or 8 years old and became extremely caution, high danger, extremely dangerous to be around during and before and after the seizure process. So if you know your dog has a brain tumor and is having seizures, be super careful working with them during the time they're having a seizure. Try to do it at another time of the day when the dog is calm and relaxed. I literally know people who have almost lost a limb from a dog biting them reactively while it was having a seizure due to a significant brain tumor. Usually you'll know about that with your dog if you're visiting your vet regularly and monitoring symptoms and changes in behavior. So the first thing I like to do if I'm going to be working with a dog who has a history of seizures is just connect with them in the way that we do with your hand this way towards their 8th chakra in the area of the heart here, and just make that connection. And if it's your own dog, that's fine. You are connected with them, but still, it's a good idea to make that gentle connection with the back of your hand near their shoulder and just think calm, loving, grateful thoughts. You know, I love you so much. I'm here to help you. and you have been such a great dog for me. I want to help you with this. And just take some deep breaths. This is really important. Being very calm and very grounded when you do this work will help your dog as much as anything. So make sure your feet are on the floor if you're in a chair, or if you're on the floor with a dog, that's fine. But just take some deep breaths, connected here through that 8th chakra, and really just connect with the dog in a very deep way. Feel their heart rate, feel their breathing, feel your own breathing. Calm your breath. Deep, long, slow breaths in your nose and out your mouth, and make that peaceful, quiet connection. And then after you do that, I do the same thing over the sacrum. Now you'll feel, oh Tristan, you're cracking in the front. You'll feel the sacrum at the end of the spinal cord. It's further back than you think because dogs have a lot of vertebrae, and it's above the hips. But you know, for most people, even with a pit bull, if you just put your hand over the back end of the dog, a few inches in from the tail, you will be on the sacrum. The reason I like to use the sacrum is because that is the base support for your body, and it helps ground the dog. And even now I can feel Tristan's sacrum heating up. It seems like he has a little problem going on here with his left hind leg. Are you trying to get up there? Oops. Oops. He says this is not ideal. So I just try to really ground the dog here, again doing the same thing I did up on his shoulder with the back of my hand, connecting, taking those long, deep, slow breaths, thinking really peaceful thoughts myself, and trying to be very grounded and calm. And that's important. Don't do this if you've had a bad day from work and you're just getting in the door. Don't do this when the teenagers are screaming about who's getting the car this weekend. Do this in a calm place so that you can fully connect with your pet. And take those deep breaths and just send some grounding energy to the hind end of your dog. You don't have to be a Reiki master. You don't have to be a dog massage therapist to do this. Anyone who loves their dog can do this. And long, deep, slow breaths in your nose and out your mouth. And if you have some calm music, that can help you and the dog when you're doing this. And again, you want to try to do this several times throughout the day if your dog is experiencing a round of seizures. And of course, your vet will put them on medications. That does not mean you should stop doing this. And a lot of senior dogs with vestibular syndrome and other disorders do have seizures infrequently. So it's important to keep up with this work. Now, the reason we're going to go to work on the ears next, or the neck and the ears, is because inside of the ears is the balance and mechanisms of your body, and further deeper inside the brain are a lot of the areas that are associated with seizure activity generally, unless your dog has a tumor in some other area. And so it's really important to work the ears and the mouth if you have a dog that has seizures. And again, this can be difficult. You may have to put a muzzle on your dog. A lot of dogs that are having seizures are hyper-reactive, even though they haven't been prior in their life. So, you know, if you need to use a muzzle and you have a nice muzzle at home that you can use, that would be fine. You don't want one that's tight or restrictive to the jaw, though, because that can be a problem, and the stress of putting that on can trigger a seizure. So if your dog is not calm, then you might not want to try to do that. And if he's as calm as my dog, you don't need to do that. So then I have to ask you to sit down again, Biss. After I've done that, I just come to the back of their head and do the same thing. Just connect. I have my hand, now you can see, put my fingers around his ears if I can reach, if he's a little guy like him, or I can put them over the top of his head, and right where what my mom calls the knowledge bump, which is really where the base of the occiput has a big lump to attach to the nuchal ligament, which holds the neck up. That's where you get in those phone calls during the conversations with a Corgi. So again, connect with the back of the neck and the base of the skull, taking those deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And as you're doing this, don't be planning your grocery list, but think calming thoughts. And often it's so much easier for people to think about, good boy, did you see he just took a deep breath, to think about things they love about their dog, or gratitude for the dog in their life and the things they've done with the dog. So as you're doing this, just have a little movie running in your head of the great time your dog had running on the beach, and how much fun your dog has chasing the cat around the house, and how much you love this dog when he's wearing his sparkly green collar, and how great this dog has been with your kids, or what a wonderful time you've had taking peaceful walks in the woods with this dog. Whatever it is that connects you to this dog, really appreciate the dog as you're doing these couple of hand positions on the sacrum and the occiput. And again, deep breaths, being super aware of your own body. No gripping in your toes, sitting uncomfortably, leaning, all of that will interfere with your ability to help ground your dog. Seizures are heightened electrical activity in the brain. Part of that is hyper-irritability in the entire central nervous system. So by bringing peace and calming to the nervous system, you can affect a change with a dog who's experiencing seizures. So we're just going to finish that up, Tris. And now we're going to do T-touches. And as you might recall, T-touches are a circle and a quarter. And I'll just show you one here on my front so you can see it. The middle finger is going to be doing most of the work and the other fingers are following. Keep the thumb and the pinky on the dog. Even though you're working on his ears, you want to make this connection. And then you're going to make, with the 6 starting here and then 12 up here, a circle and a quarter like that. Circle and a quarter. See how the joints in my knuckles and wrist are loose? I'm not doing this. See how my hand is moving like a paw? Not this, this. Okay, so those are clouded or lying leopards, depending on how you have your hand positioned. And we're going to start doing those circular T-touches around the base of the dog's ear. Why here? Lots of acupuncture points here. A really important aspect of the craniosacral rhythm in the temporal bones, which are under the ears, is in this area. And I can't teach you craniosacral work over Facebook Live, because if you do it wrong, you can really hurt an animal. But T-touch doesn't have that problem. Am I making your ears itchy? Yes, you're very itchy. You're very itchy. And actually what he's doing would be quite typical for a dog with seizures, because they are going to be sensitive in this area. And I am doing this with a 3 touch, and that is the deepest that you can tolerate happily on your eyelid. So it's a fairly light pressure. If you've got a furry dog like Mr. Tristan here, you might have to use what feels like a little more pressure to get to that 3 level on the skin through the fluff. So we'll do both ears. And this is where there's a bit of a variation from your straight up T-touch work on the ears with the 1 or 2 ears. So we're going to do both ears. And I would spend a good 3 minutes or more doing these circular touches around the base of the ears. And then we have the back of the neck, tension in the cervical vertebrae and the OA or AO joint here where the skull meets the last cervical vertebrae. Tension there can also be a factor in seizures. And just by the way, if you have a dog with SM, a cavalier with this neurologic problem, these techniques can be really helpful for those dogs as well. And again, not necessarily while they're having the attack of SM, but right after that and throughout their lives to kind of keep things minimized. So I'm just doing these circular T-touches all around the ears, and you want to get really quite close to that line where the ear joins the head on both sides of the ear. And then you can work your way down to the jaw. The jaw is shaped like an L. Tris, show us your jaw. It goes here, thank you. It goes down here and then out. So this area has a lot of muscle attachments, which can get really tense in a dog with seizures. And a lot of people have dogs that do that thing, the teeth chattering when they're nervous. I see this in a lot of Border Collies and Aussies. Doing these T-touches around this area can also help minimize that. It's from extreme tension that they do that. which comes from excitement about being able to chase a ball or a sheep. So TTouch is in this area here. Why? Because the jaw and the jaw muscles all attach to the temporal bone, and tension there. And this, you know, we have a lot of senior dogs that have seizure problems, and some of that can be from over their lifetime, their teeth grinding unevenly and their jaw hanging a little crooked to one side and putting tension into the craniosacral system through the temporal bone, and then suddenly you have a perfect environment for seizure activity. So we're just doing this. You want your dog to really just melt when you're doing this. It's going to be hard for Tristan because he's practically falling off my lap the whole time we're sitting in this chair. Yeah, do you think these shorts are slippery? They're different ones. He's resting his toenails in the cuff on my shorts to not slide. So once you've done this, and a bit longer than I've been doing it, so you've done the circles around the base of the ear, where it meets the skull, around the front of the ear, and down here on the jaw on both sides. The point at the very tip of the ear is the shock point in acupuncture. This is a great place to work while your dog is having the seizure, if your dog is calm and safe enough to be around. As I said, sometimes when dogs are having seizures, it's very frightening to them and to you. And I do know people that have been bitten by their dog during a seizure. So be super careful unless your dog, you know, like my sister's dogs, they are calm and relaxed, and even when they're stressed out, when they are having an SM attack or a seizure, they're still calm and sweet, and you can easily work on them. But just rubbing this acupuncture point for shock at the tip of the ear can really help relax them and maybe even stop a seizure or make it a little shorter. And I would do this on both ears. So you're just supporting the ear under your index finger, and I'm just rubbing it with my thumb in that area. And do the other side. My dog, being a Corgi, is shedding on his ears. Your ears are shedding, Tristan. Be careful not to snap the ear when you're holding it. Just hold it gently, let go of it, and support it as you let go of it. And when we were doing the circular touches around the base of the ear, this is the triple heater meridian in acupuncture. The triple heater meridian has to do with respiration, digestion, and reproduction. So those are all important areas to address when you're working with a dog with seizures. Not so much the reproduction, but certainly the respiration. You want them to have calm, slow, deep breaths, and the digestion. If they are having stomach issues that are triggering tension in their body to create the state for a seizure to occur, the digestion point is important. So we've done the circular touches, the ears, and now we're going to do ear strokes. And I will try to do this the way I would really do it. Typically, you're going to put your hand inside the dog's ear and then your thumb on the top, and you just stroke the ear out. And again, do this gently. You don't want to really pull on the ear, and you don't want to drop the ear and let it snap. You want to make sure you're supporting it all the way to the end. Don't let it pull back to the body. I have got enough Corgi here to build a new ear, Biss. And do that on both ears. Now, if your dog, I would prefer, because this is how we do it in cranial work, and I know this works for seizures because I've done this on people to stop a seizure, and even myself to prevent one. So I would typically do this with two hands on the ears at the same time. Come back, Corgi, we need to see this. In TTouch, we usually only do one ear stroke at a time. There's good reasons for that. But in cranial work, we do two ears at the same time. So if you can get coordinated so that you're on the same part of each ear simultaneously, this is far more beneficial, I think, for seizures in particular. And it does take a little bit more skill to follow your dog around. And again, I'm just putting enough pressure on the ear to not drop it, and enough tension on the ear to just stretch it a tiny bit. And after you've done that, I would come back and do some more of these clouded and lying leopard circles around the ears and the jaw and the base of the skull. And if this is all your dog will let you do, that's fine. This is going to give you a lot of benefit. And if I've been having a short session like I have with Tristan here, always at the end I will do what we call in TTouch Noah's March. And Noah's March is deceptively easy, but also really critical that you do it correctly, especially for a dog with seizures. Good job, Biss. So what you do is simply run your hands over the length of the dog. It integrates the work through the whole body, and it feels really good, like you get goosebumps when somebody does it right on you. So you start at the head and go down the front leg, connect that paw to the ground. If your dog is laying down, sitting up, it doesn't matter. Connect by touching your hand to the paw and the ground, or in this case, my lap, at the same time. You're going to affect that same idea of grounding. We're going to come down the hind end of the dog, connect that back paw to the earth. Do not forget to connect to the earth. If you have a tail, or a virtual tail as we do, come down and go all the way to the end of the tail. And then connect the front leg on the other side all the way to the ground. The other hind leg all the way to the ground. And I like to do just a little slide off of each ear and then end with my hand back on the sacrum, taking some deep breaths. So that's what I would do to help a dog with seizures. Well, not what I would do personally, but I would educate my clients with dogs with seizures to do this procedure. Of course, if it were seeing me personally, I would do some more advanced cranial work with the dog and try to address the problems that the dog may have structurally that are contributing to the seizures or nutritionally. So Madison is here too because she has a different kind of ear. So I just want to show you, Tristan has stick-up ears. When you do the ear slides, you're going in the direction of the ear. Now his ears can, they move because he's a Corgi. He can put them anywhere. But you want to go not straight out to the side, but straight out and slightly back when you're doing these ear slides. It's a normal range of motion for the ear. You can see how the one I'm doing this on, he's mirroring that same ear posture. Come here, honey, with the other ear. So it's out and back slightly in the direction this ear is pointing. Now with Madison, being a Cavalier, she has flop ears. You're going to do the same thing, with the T-touches around the base of the ear, on her jaw. You can even go around the outside of the mouth. She likes having her mouth rubbed. She's making some noise in there. Okay, and then when you stroke her ears and do the slides, you're not going up like this, like you were with Tristan. You're coming down and slightly back. And really important to support the spaniel's ear. Notice this is what I'm doing. I'm coming down and back. Notice my bottom hand still supporting the ear, and my thumb is already off the top, but I'm not letting the ear do that. That will actually cause a seizure in some cases. So just very gently slide the ear down, release it gently, and place it back on your dog. And then when we're doing this with two hands, whoa, Madison, you have your hands under both ears, slide it gently back and down. Come back, Madison. I'm going to have to pull on your ears a little bit so people can see you because I have to hold you up by your ears. My lap is not big enough for two dogs. So those ear slides are really important. I would do them daily if I had a dog with seizure problems. And certainly even a senior dog with vestibular problems can benefit from doing this work daily. So that's just some simple things that anyone can do with their dog at home to help them if they are having seizures, and to help prevent them and to minimize them if your dog has been having that history. And again, very important, if your dog is having seizure activity, that you be in constant contact with your vet. Acupuncture can be very beneficial also for dogs having seizures and medication. It depends on how bad they are, but seizures can be a life-threatening circumstance, so it's very important that you are seeing your vet for a consult or 2 or 4 if your dog is experiencing this problem. But there is much you can do in between those visits to help your dog not have as many seizures and to minimize the severity of each seizure. So review, again, as I said, in Conversations with a Corgi, way back around episodes 20, we had a talk about ear T-touches, and then you can go to the very beginning, Conversations with a Corgi, I think it's like episode 9, where we started doing the T-touches, and you can look up the clouded and lying leopard touches, because that's what you're going to want to do around your dog's ear. And notice your dog, when you're doing them, if you're not doing them right, your dog will move away. So you have a pretty low risk of creating a problem. And if you're doing them wrong, and what that means usually is holding your breath, not making a circle and a quarter, just doing a circle or something, those kinds of things just make it less effective or no effect. But it will not harm your dog if you cannot do this perfectly. So try it and get practiced at it. There are great videos online that you can buy from the TTouch office that show you all of these techniques as well for the ear T-touches. So again, just a quick review. If you're having a dog that has seizure issues, make that connection with their heart chakra with the back of your hand and think wonderful thoughts about your dog, how much you love him, how grateful you are for him, and really take those deep, quiet, slow breaths to connect with your dog. And then move your hand to the sacrum, doing the same thing. Wonderful thoughts, deep, quiet, slow breaths, really connecting with your dog. Go to the OA area, same thing. Just steady your hand there lightly. Don't push on the dog's head and neck at all. Don't push his head down. Just lightly make that connection in that area. You can use your knuckles like this if you have trouble with getting your whole dog's head in your hands, or just your fingertips. But make that connection in that area where the brain and skull join the vertebrae. And then the T-touches around the base of the ear, where the triple heater meridian is, around the base of the jaw here, where a lot of those muscles attach to the temporal bones. And then we have the shock point on the end, useful while your dog is actually having a seizure. I've used this a lot to stop seizures in humans and dogs. It works really well. And then the ear slides, going up to the base, from the base to the tip of the ear. And try to do that with 2 hands on the ears at the same time. This is not the way we typically do it for T-touch, but if you have a dog with seizures, this is going to be super beneficial. You like Madison. He's trying to go visit Madison. He is wearing his new necktie today. Handsome. So you can write here and ask any questions you have, or just anywhere on my Sally Morgan PTCST page. You can ask any questions about this work if you have a dog with seizures and you're trying to do this work. And as I said, it can be super beneficial to minimize the effect of the seizures, create some greater space between them, and to bring your dog some comfort and relief after a seizure. The only thing I would do during a seizure, if I were you, is work on the tip of the ear, if you can safely do that, because as I said, some dogs become really reactive when they're having seizures. And for instance, there was a husky I knew. She had that kind of staring, kind of slight trembling in her body type of seizure. And she wasn't mean or vicious or anything, but we would go and try to work on the tip of her ear, which was helpful. But when she came out of the seizure, she was usually standing, she would leap up. You know how they go like that to get a mouse? She would leap up and bark. So you had to be calm when you were working with her ear tip and ready to step out of her way or support her if she started to stumble as she came back down. So you just have to be super aware of your dog when you're doing this work, but you can really provide a lot of benefit. So I hope this has been helpful, and I will post this all over the place so that people can learn from it. And please feel free to share it if you know somebody who has a dog with seizures. So thanks for joining us today. This has been Sally Morgan, physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, Tellington TTouch practitioner for animals and people. and hair maintenance technician for Tristan, who's a Corgi. And we will be back tomorrow where I will be talking to you about how to use a tuning fork and some other things to help a dog, specifically with DM. Thanks for joining us today. Biscuits. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.